In the mid-1800s, long before modern law enforcement reached the western frontier, survival often depended on courage, reputation, and quick decisions. Vast territories stretched beyond government control, and small settlements relied on a handful of individuals to maintain order in places where danger and uncertainty were part of daily life. Among the most famous frontier lawmen was a man whose calm presence helped bring stability to some of the most unpredictable towns of the American West. His name was Wyatt Earp. Welcome to Frontier History Archive, where we explore frontier history and the real stories of survival, exploration, and life at the edge of civilization. Wyatt Earp was born in 1848 during a period when America was rapidly expanding westward. His early life involved constant movement as his family traveled between frontier communities searching for opportunity. Growing up in changing environments taught him adaptability, a skill that would later define his reputation. Frontier towns were very different from established eastern cities. Boomtowns appeared almost overnight after discoveries of gold, silver, or new railroad routes. These settlements attracted miners, merchants, gamblers, and travelers from many backgrounds. Rapid growth often meant rules and institutions struggled to keep pace. Maintaining order became a serious challenge. Local law enforcement positions were frequently filled by individuals willing to confront difficult situations with limited resources. Marshals and deputies often worked alone or with small teams, relying more on reputation than formal authority. Earp's early adulthood included a variety of occupations. Like many frontier figures, he worked as a laborer, wagon driver, and buffalo hunter before eventually becoming involved in law enforcement. These experiences gave him familiarity with frontier travel and the realities of life in rapidly growing towns. Railroad expansion played a major role in shaping frontier communities. As rail lines extended westward, towns along the tracks became centers of trade and activity. With growth came disputes, gambling halls, and conflicts that required mediation. Earp began working as a lawman in several frontier towns across Kansas. His approach emphasized presence and control rather than unnecessary confrontation. Maintaining peace often involved preventing problems before they escalated. Reputation mattered greatly on the frontier. A lawman known for fairness and consistency could maintain order simply through public respect. Word traveled quickly between towns, and reputations followed individuals wherever they went. One of the most significant periods of Earp's life began when he arrived in Tombstone, Arizona. Tombstone was a booming mining town filled with opportunity but also tension. Competing interests, economic disputes, and rapid population growth created an unstable environment. The town represented many challenges typical of frontier expansion. Mining wealth attracted investors and workers, while remote location limited outside authority. Local officials were responsible for maintaining order in circumstances that changed daily. Earp, along with his brothers, became involved in local law enforcement and business activities. Their presence coincided with growing disagreements between different groups within the town. Conflicts were often tied to economic competition and differing visions for the future of the settlement. Frontier justice required constant balance. Lawmen needed to enforce rules while maintaining community trust. Decisions were often made quickly, based on limited information and immediate necessity. Daily life in Tombstone reflected both opportunity and uncertainty. Busy streets filled with merchants and travelers during the day, while evenings brought crowded saloons and social gatherings. Maintaining peace required vigilance and diplomacy. As tensions increased within the community, Wyatt Earp's role became more prominent. Events unfolding in Tombstone would soon place him at the center of one of the most discussed moments in frontier history. And the choices made during this period would shape how the frontier remembered his name. As tensions continued to rise in Tombstone, disagreements between rival groups became increasingly difficult to manage. Economic competition, political influence, and personal rivalries created divisions within the community. Law enforcement officers were often placed in the middle of these disputes, responsible for preventing conflict while navigating complex local relationships. By 1881, the situation had become especially strained. Certain groups in the area disagreed over control of business interests and enforcement authority. Accusations, public arguments, and growing mistrust shaped the atmosphere in the town. Maintaining order required careful judgment and constant awareness of escalating tensions. In October of that year, a confrontation occurred near the OK Corral. Though brief in duration, the incident quickly became one of the most widely discussed moments in frontier history. The event lasted less than a minute, yet it influenced how Wyatt Earp and his associates would be remembered for generations. After the confrontation, Legal proceedings followed. Investigations sought to determine whether actions taken were justified under the circumstances. Testimony from witnesses revealed how quickly situations could develop in frontier towns where emotions and disagreements ran high. Regardless of interpretation, the event solidified Wyatt Earp's reputation. To some, he represented decisive law enforcement during a turbulent time. To others, the situation reflected deeper conflicts within rapidly growing frontier communities. The aftermath proved challenging. Public opinion divided, and Earp's family faced ongoing tension in the region. Additional incidents further complicated matters, eventually leading Wyatt Earp to leave Arizona Territory. Like many frontier figures, his life did not remain centered in one location. He traveled between mining camps and developing towns across the West, participating in business ventures and adapting to changing economic opportunities. The frontier itself was shifting, from loosely organized boomtowns to more structured communities with formal institutions. As railroads expanded and communication improved, the era of frontier lawmen gradually evolved. Towns became more stable, courts more established, and law enforcement increasingly formalized. The environment that had shaped Earp's early career slowly transformed. Later in life, Wyatt Earp moved to California. He witnessed the continued modernization of the West and observed how stories of earlier frontier days began entering popular culture. Newspapers, books, and eventually early films portrayed the dramatic events of frontier towns, often simplifying complex realities. Over time, the story of Tombstone became part of American legend. Yet beyond the well-known confrontation, Earp's life represented something broader: the challenge of maintaining order in rapidly changing communities where opportunity and uncertainty existed side by side. Frontier law enforcement required more than physical courage. It demanded negotiation skills, awareness of local dynamics, and the ability to make decisions in unpredictable situations. Success often depended on preventing escalation rather than responding to it. Wyatt Earp lived long enough to see the frontier become history. By the early 20th century, railroads, telegraphs, and expanding cities had reshaped the American West. The world he once knew, defined by small settlements and informal authority, was fading. When he passed away in 1929, the era of the classic frontier had largely ended. Yet his story endured through books and later films that reintroduced his name to new generations. The image of the frontier lawman became a symbol of order in uncertain times. Today, historians continue examining the broader context of frontier communities. Rather than viewing individuals only through legend, research reveals how economic growth, migration, and social change shaped daily life in towns like Tombstone. Wyatt Earp's legacy reflects that transitional period in American history, a time when expanding territories required adaptable leadership and steady judgment. His story reminds us that frontier history was built not only by explorers and pioneers, but also by individuals responsible for guiding communities through rapid transformation. Thank you for watching Frontier History Archive, where we explore frontier history and the real stories that shape life at the edge of civilization. Until next time, goodbye from Frontier History Archive.